So now we're going to have a look at pivot tables. Often quite a scared area people find it in Excel, mainly because it really takes a different approach to the rest of Excel. Whereas most of the time in Excel, we're writing formulas and things like that, pivot tables are actually drag and drop. Because they're drag and drop, they look quite alien at first when you first see it, but once I've guided you through, or anybody has, they're actually really quite easy and incredibly powerful. The amount of time it would take to do the calculations that I'll show you in a minute, it would take hours and hours to write the formulas for things that we can literally do in a few moments. So I've got the blank table document here in front of me, and I'm actually going to turn it into a table again. This is by no means compulsory to make a pivot table. All you have to do to make a pivot table is just insert pivot table. But because I want to compare it to the data all the time to explain what I'm doing, then there's some advantages in me turning it into a pivot table. So I'm just going to say, and if you've not watched the table video, I suggest you have a look. So I'm going to just turn this into a nice blue table here. So there we go. I'm going to add on the total row, and I'm going to sum up the sales column. Like I say, there's a whole video explaining what I've just done there if you're not quite sure. So we can see here that the sum of the sales is £2.2 million. So we need to remember that, or I'm going to keep referring to it. You don't have to remember it, I'll say it enough times. Now, one of the options you get on table, and remember it says table design here if you're on a PC, is to summarize this with a pivot table. Okay, so I'm going to press that. And it basically says, well, what do you want to use as your data? And it's already selected table 1. I will at the end just do this again with a blank table, with a blank document, rather than creating it from a table. So, because this will look ever so slightly different. And then you also, where do you want to put this thing called a pivot table? Do you want to put it on a new worksheet or on an existing worksheet? And traditionally, you probably would put it on a new worksheet. But I will again show you both ways of doing that. So again, most of the time what you do is you press pivot table or summarize with pivot table and press OK. And here we go. We get this quite alien looking interface. Okay. Now I personally think they maybe put these boxes in the wrong order. At the moment it's blank. There's nothing really going on here. But what we've got up here is we've got these field names. Now you'll recognize these field names. These are the same as the headers from this from here. Okay, so these headers going across the top, these have become drag and droppable. We can move these around. They're drag and drops. And then we've got these 4 boxes here. Okay, so it all looks a bit alien at first, but the order in which you put them in is very important. So we've got values, rows, columns, and filters. Okay, and the order I've just set them is the order you want to use. You want to go values and then rows, and those are the 2 main ones. You want to typically you've got nothing until you've used both of those. Columns, if you want to add an extra level of complexity to it. And then filters, you're probably already familiar with filters. Filters is just the same as a filter, this sort of filter. But I'll show you filters, and then I'll show you an even nicer way of doing this, the same as what filter does. So just going back over here, just to refresh, we've got the sales column, and at the bottom of the sales column, I've added it all up. And the total of all our sales comes to 2.2 million. So let's recreate that now on the pivot table side of things. So, by the way, if this stuff, these ever disappear, if you clicked out of this, then they disappear. If you click back on this pivot table box, you'll get these back again. So we know, so I'm going to drag sales. Now, what was the first one I said? Values. Always need something in values. So I'm going to drag this down to values. And look, we get this 2.2 million. I'm going to just turn this into accounting, like that. And I'm going to just remove the decimal places. There we go. So look, we've got, in fact, I prefer currency. I like the pound sign to touch not be distant from it. So look at that. So what we've got there is look, it says here sum of sales. You can see there's a tick now in the sales box, and we've got a sum of it. So useful, but not particularly useful. So now let's see where the power of these pivot tables, what people talk about. So I'm going to filter now by a category. I'm going to say let's say I'm interested in beverages. Okay, so I've just ticked beverages. So I've come back to my main data page. And here we go. So how many, we've got here about 20 odd rows of data. And we can see that the sum of all of our sales is £405,000. Okay, so a sum of all of our sales is £405,000, but just for beverages. Okay, so we've used category, we've filtered on category here. This isn't the pivot table side. I'm just showing you what I'm now going to do on the pivot table, but I'm showing you on a way that you're probably more familiar with. So we filtered the category for beverages, we get 405,000. So watch this. I take category and I'm going to drag it to rows, and watch what happens. I take category, I drag it to rows, and when I let go, we get a lot of stuff done for us. So basically what it's done is it's summed the sales for every single category. So this is like writing a SUMIF formula. In fact, this is exactly what this is. This is a SUMIF formula. So what did we look at on this side? Was it beverages? I believe it was. Yes, 405,000 for beverages. Come back here, and we can see that beverages is 405,000. But we actually get a lot more, don't we? We get the value of every category. So how would we have done that here? Well, there's two different ways we could have done it. We could have written a SUMIF on this. We could have no filter on. I'm not actually going to write it, but we've done SUMIFs. We could do a SUMIF on this category and on the sales column for beverages. And then we could do it again for pasta and baked goods and soups and grains, and we could write a whole bunch of formulas, and at the end of it we would have, how many have we got here? Click and drag, come down here, there's 14 of these. So that would have taken quite a while to get those. And you can see that what's really nice is it's still, if we add up all of these different things, we get a grand total of 2.2 million. So we're still looking at the same information. We still get to 2.2 million, but now we can see exactly how all our sales are going. And this is what this means to pivot, doesn't it? To pivot something means to turn it around, to pivot it, to rotate it maybe. So that's what we're doing with our data. Very quickly, very easily, we're just looking at it from different perspectives. We're just seeing different ideas. This was our company. We would probably know, actually the one I picked seems to be the best-selling beverages, the best-selling product. But we can start asking questions like, our sale of oil has that dropped? Very very quick and easy. Now let's carry on then, right? So we'll stick with the beverages, but we'll filter it again. So there's three different. I'll turn the beverage filter back on. Okay. This is just to give you a comparison. And look, there's three different ways that people can pay this company. They can pay by cash, by check, or by credit. Okay, so let's have a look at the cash sales of beverages. So here they are. Okay, so look, I've now got two filters going on. This is dropped down to £106,000. So that 106, that represents the sales added up, where the category equals beverages and the payment types equals cash. Now we know how to do this with our SUMIFs. We're writing more complicated SUMIFs now. We've got different ranges going in. Let's see. I mean, it almost beggars belief how easy it is. But let's see how we now apply that to the pivot table. So payment type cash. So you've got to remember that. So I'm going to come over here so you can see that we put something in values, we put something in rows. Now let's use columns and let's put payment type in columns, and let's see how powerful this is. So I drag payment type to columns. Boom. Look at this. So what were we just looking at? We were looking at beverages cash, 106,000. Can you just double check that? Yeah. Okay. So that's that one complicated SUMIF there. Okay. Look at how many we've actually got though. We've got 42 SUMIFs have been written here for every single category, alongside whether they're cash, check, or credit. Okay. And then we're getting some really nice we can see how things are broken down. We can now see that, so, it's a reasonably good split. We've got, everything adds up to 2.2 million, and it's roughly thirds. You can see that there's more check. We probably, as a company, most companies like cash, keep the cash flow going. The cash is at the lowest. But it's just really, really quick, isn't it? I mean, how long would it take us to write that SUMIFs for cash? It would take a while. And we've got that here, and we've got 42 others given to us for dragging, what have we pressed? Pivot table, we drag the sales into this column, the category into this column, the payment type into this one, and we're done. Brilliant. Or cell, I should say. I don't know what the official term for these boxes is, but we'll just call them boxes. All right, let's do one more. Let's look at this filters box. So let's come back to our data once again. And now what should we do? Let's filter on quarter. Obviously there's 4 quarters in a year. Let's just select quarter 1 and let's see what's happened now. So now we've got an even more complicated sum if going on. We've got a sum if on quarter 1 in this column, beverages on this column, cash on this column, and that tells us that for all of those, the sum of the sales is £57,000. Let's see if we can add that into our pivot table. Of course we can. What did I say? It was quarter, wasn't it? So I'm going to drag quarter to filters. Now nothing will actually happen at first. And also this is the first time we're going to not see 2.2 million. Okay? Because at the moment we're looking at all of the data for the whole year. Now, what I really want is just quarter 1. So I'm going to just, and this filter works exactly the same as a regular filter, but I'm just going to say, show me all of the data for quarter 1. Now then, so there's the same figure, 57,000. Let me just check. Yeah, 57,000. So we can see here what this one figure here is representing. This represents the quarter 1 cash sales for beverages. Okay. But also, again, we've got another 42 of these done. And obviously we've got 42 and that's quarter 1. We can obviously access any of the different quarters and see what's going on for the sales in those quarters. So really, really powerful. Now then, I'm just going to go off on a hypothetical, what could this show you? Okay. So, at a glance, and I'm going to just make this up, but for example, does whoever's buying our canned fruit and vegetables, for example, do they know that we offer a credit facility? Because nobody's taken advantage of the fact that we offer credit. I'm just making stuff up. But you wouldn't know from this data, or if I now turn off all these filters, if I turn that one back on, in fact, the quickest way to turn off lots of filters is just to unselect the filter. But, when you've got hundreds of rows of data, it's very difficult to we're almost overwhelmed with information. It's very difficult to precisely drill down and get the same level of, or the same clarity that we can see by just seeing, well, why are there gaps? Why are there gaps here? I mean, gaps may or may not be important. There could be really good reasons for these gaps, or, why is that, that's a particularly good, 34,000, that could be a really, really good figure. Can we sell more? It just shows us our information in a way that we hadn't seen before. And so we can really, we can just hopefully make some analysis of it. Okay. Or we might have wanted those complicated sum ifs doing, in which case we can do them incredibly quickly. So let me take some things back now. Let me take them stuff off. So I can right click and I can remove fields. So I'm going to remove a few of them. In fact, I'm going to remove all of them. I'm going to just show you another thing. So notice that everything so far has been on the sum of the sales. And because they were numbers, values, we can add those up. And so if you pass a pivot table numbers, it will default to doing sums. But pivot tables can do more than that. Pivot tables can actually work as well. And this is another really nice feature of them. They can work with text. So let's see how it works with text. I'm gonna remove this. Okay. And what shall I pick? I don't know. Let's look at sales reps. Okay. So I'm going to drag in my sales reps to values. And now this pound sign, I manually added that. So I'm just going to remove that off. I'm just going to take that off. So at the moment, so if you drag in something that is text-based, it's going to count it. And a count on, and essentially what it's going to return to you is how many rows of data. Okay, so you can see there's 439 rows there. Obviously, there's 438 rows of data plus the header row at the top. So we've got 438 rows. All right, and that's exactly what we get. To start off with, it just counts it. But now let's drag exactly the same field into rows. And let's see what this does, because this is now going to be a count. And this is going to start looking interesting. Okay, so we can see now what's going on. We can see each of our salespeople. Now you can do all of the same sorts of things in a pivot table that you could do in a normal Excel. So I'm going to sort these. Let's sort them from smallest to largest. So we can see that poor old Laura here, she is our worst salesman. Robert happens to be the best. But what this isn't telling us is the value of their sales. Okay, now the value of their sales may be, and we'll look at that in one moment. Okay, now again, you can do the same thing. So I can now, let's see by quarter how their sales are going. And I'm going to select all of them. I think it just remembered basically because I filtered it out. So we can now see, so look at this. So Michael, what happened to you in quarter 2? No sales at all there, mate. Okay. What else? What could we do as a reverse? Anne, absolutely brilliant in the second quarter there, 32 sales. You see, it just shows us our data in different ways. We can analyze it and come up with things that we would never have noticed. Okay, so that's great. Now, turns out, a couple of things to tell you now. You can put multiple things in columns and rows. Now, let me just like drag something random, like product names into here. And I'll just show you how. So this is one of the things you have to watch out with. You can quickly make your pivot table almost unreadable. If I actually remove quarter, you can sort of see what's going on here. So what this has now done is this has broken down the sales into each product for each salesperson, and these are counts. Yeah, how many? Yeah, and obviously with sales, they're probably going to have certain areas that they sell, but it looks like most salespeople seem to sell everything. So then that asks, then you start asking some questions, why are only three of the salesmen selling our chocolate biscuits? Okay. So that's the first. So yeah, and you can. So watch this. This is really nice. So if I take, say, quarter, and I'm going to drag quarter into rows here, for example. So what this now gives us, you can probably see what's happening. The sales rep is the parent, and the quarter is the child. So look, and what this means is, here are Laura's sales for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So quick sip of my tea. Excuse me. And the same for Nancy's and Michael's and things like that. Now, what makes them the parent and the child? Simply the way they're ordered in this box. So if I take, for example, sales rep and I drag it below quarter, now we see here's quarter 1 sales and all of the individual sales reps. Here's quarter 2 sales and individual sales reps. And these are collapsible. We can reduce these down. Okay. So really nice, really, really powerful stuff here. The other thing, I'm going to make it less complicated because I'm going to add some other things in. Let me take out quarter, take out that. So as I mentioned before, just the actual number of sales maybe does or maybe doesn't help. Let's see what the value of these sales are. So I'm just to show you that you can add multiple things to any of these boxes. You can add multiple things to values as well. So watch, I'm going to take sales. Now we've already drag sales in here before. So let's see what happens. So it does a sum of the sales. Okay. I'm going to format these again just to be current. In fact, I might just add the comma separator. So now let's see. And pretty much the actual number of sales. Well, no, actually. So look, so Laura here, who had the lowest number of sales, actually was only the 3rd lowest in terms of value, and that's probably a useful thing to know. Okay, so and also you can choose again. You can swap the orders of these around. So if you want the count to be the sum on the left, whichever is the higher up on here will be more to the left on here. Okay, just going to make that look a bit tidier. And I think really that's about all we have to say. Oh yeah, there was a couple of extra things. So you get two different columns, not columns, ribbon headers is the official term for when you're doing pivot tables. Okay, and I wanted to show you. So I don't actually use the filters. Okay, what I use instead is these slicers. Okay, so let me just show you. So I'm going to insert a timeline. So watch this. So when you press this button, very clever. So what Excel's done here, so I pressed insert timeline. It's come over to our data and it said, are any of these time and date things? And it's recognized that the order date column has date information in it. And so it suggested that. Now, if there was more than one suggestion, we'd be able to tick more than one option here. But that's basically where it's pulled that from. Okay, so watch this. I'm going to choose order date. I'm going to press OK. Now, we will remember the concept of what filters do. That's quite simple enough. But watch what we can do now. So this is basically covering 1 year. Okay, so look, I can come in here and I can say, well, I wonder what my sales were from October to December. Okay, and these are buttons, so I can click on individual ones. I can drag this to expand it. I can drag the handles on the right. Yeah, and you can see what I'm doing. I'm quite quickly filtering things down on months. Let's say, okay, what were the sales like in July? Okay, so July and August, typically low sale months. I can just click on them and see. I can go as far as I can see individual days. Okay, I can do the whole years. Okay. Or maybe it is over 3 years, this data. Yeah, looks like it is. Yeah, so just really nice, really quickly, I can turn these filters on and off. Okay, so this is great. I'm just going to select everything just to make it. I'm going to drag this all the way to the left. There we go. So this is back to 438 and 2.2 million pounds, the numbers that we're used to. Let me show you a couple of the other things that we can do. That's really nice. So again, and like I said, I don't use this filter, but I might insert a slicer. Now, what did we do before? We did quarters, didn't we? So let's have a look at this. So I'm going to say insert slicer, and I'm going to pick quarter. So think of that exactly the same as saying filter quarter. But watch what happens here. We get another. So what you can also use this for, what's very powerful, if you want to be in meetings, you can preset these up, and then somebody can ask you a question. Well, how was quarter one? Come over here. I click 1. It's the same as filtering for 1, but it's far more visual, far more easily done. I believe I can control click and select 2 at once. Yeah, I can just turn different things on and off nice and easily. Okay, I can come in here and I can see I can press the button to turn them all on. What else can I do? And I can have a bunch of these different filters just sitting there. Let me just do one more for payment type, say. Let's turn on payment type, and look what happens. I get the text options. I can reassign the size of my boxes here. Okay, I can start building up my my data analysis page, and now at the moment everything is turned on, but at the drop of a hat, if somebody says to me, what were our cash sales in quarter 1 of 2015? 2015 quarter 1 cash sales. Oh, I did it in reverse. I should have turned. There we go. And there we go. That's our cash sales in quarter 1 of 2015. Now you think how long that would take you to write the sum ifs for that. It would take a ridiculous amount of time. And the final thing I'm going to show you is, okay, so we've analysed this. We've drilled down. We're very interested in Maria's sales here, and we want to know, well, where does that come from? And you can do this at any point with a pivot table. If I double click on so all I did there was I double clicked on this value. I'm interested in this 34,000. I want to know exactly what data was used to generate that 34,000. So look here, this is what it's done for me. Let me zoom in. So let's try and recreate that. So we've got 2015 quarter 1 cash. So let's go in and say Q1. Actually, I don't even know how to. Oh yeah, no, I do know. Sorry. Nice of Excel to break that down for me so nicely. And then I'm going to say cash. And then I'm going to need to filter. Like you can see the work, and this is just to filter it. So it was Maria. So I want to say sales reps. And I want to say Maria. 34,000. Is that the number I was talking about? 34,000. Yes, it is. And that's the data we've got. So this filter table here now with these 5 things in is the same as there. Look, but they're both the same. They're both the same. But what a bit of work. What a bit of work. And if I was like, actually, what about Q3? And what was their check payments? Do you know what I mean? I can so quickly and so beautifully pull these things together. So there we go. There's pivot tables. Right. Last thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to actually just shut that down. Don't save it. I'm going to open it up again. I'm going to show you how to create a pivot table from scratch if it's not a table, because often it won't necessarily be a table when you start. So here's just our spreadsheet. Okay, very simple, but I just wanted to show you. Click, so you're somewhere inside your data, you go to insert and you choose pivot table. That's where it looks slightly different because it's not picking up the table. And I press OK. So that's done it the same way. I'm going to do it one more time just to show you how you go about putting the data on the same page. So you do this, you go insert pivot table. Now I'm going to say on my existing worksheet, and look, it's asking me where I want it. Now a nice tip you can do is if you ever see these buttons, what these mean is, okay, you can press me and then like use your mouse to select. That's what that means. So I'm going to press it and I'm going to say that I want my pivot table to be, the top left of my pivot table to be there. And then I have to tell it, I have to click the same button again. And now watch, when I press OK, that's where the top left of my pivot table is. And now it's going to work exactly as it did before, but now it's in the same area of my data. Okay. So great. So any questions, please get in contact. I hope you found that useful. Pivot tables are absolutely amazing. Spend a little bit of time getting to know them, and I think you'll really find a huge amount of benefit.